While we're waiting, I shall introduce myself. I'm Neil Sinden. I've been overseeing the programme of the Urban Tree Festival this year. I hope some of you have attended previous events and have enjoyed them, and I also hope that people are going to be joining in the last few days of the festival up until Sunday. So we have a fantastic panel of speakers for this session today on the London Urban Forest Plan, which is, of course, a critical document in the in relation to urban trees and woodland in the capital, and potentially is of relevance beyond London to other cities as well, who would have their own plans possibly, but we shall perhaps find out a bit more about that in due course. I'm going to we're going to have three speakers. First up will be Lucy Beagley from the Greater London Authority, who's has a critical role in relation to the London Urban Forest Plan, and will be telling us a bit about that, giving us an intro to the plan. Then we'll have Anna Walker from CPRE London, one of the key players in the delivery of the development and delivery of the plan, and finally Peter Underwood from the Conservation Volunteers, who likewise has a critical role in delivering the plan. We hope we'll speed through presentations in about no more than half an hour, and there'll be time at the end, even though we've started a bit later than anticipated, for questions and discussion. I hope people are pretty familiar by now with the Zoom webinar format. Apologies, it's not terrifically interactive, but you'll probably know that there is a Q&A panel on the bottom of your screen where you can post questions. Please post those questions as and when they arise, and we'll come to them at the end. There's also a chat function which you can open, and we'll be endeavouring to post useful information, links and so on in that panel. But to start off with, before handing over to Lucy, I just wanted to make a few soundings really to find out how many people listening in right now have previously heard of the London Urban Forest Plan. So we've set up a short poll here, and which I'm just about to launch, and it would be great if you can just tell us whether or not you've heard of the London Urban Forest Plan before this session, and that will give the speakers a good sense of perhaps how to pitch their presentations. So it's looking pretty even at the moment. So the slim majority have heard of the London Urban Forest Plan, probably because they signed up to the seminar and might have read around it in advance of the seminar, but almost half haven't. So that's interesting in itself. And as I say, hopefully will be a guide for our speakers. I'll end the poll there and share the results, and which you can see, hopefully, and hand over to Lucy Beagley from the GLA.
Thanks, Neil. I'll just share my screen. Okay, Neil, can you just confirm you can see my screen?
Yep, all good.
So thanks very much to the festival organisers for inviting me to speak today, and the Mayor of London is really pleased to be supporting the festival. As Neil said, my name is Lucy Beagley and I'm the London Urban Forest Plan Coordinator at the GLA. So I'm going to kick off the webinar by giving you an overview of the London Urban Forest Partnership and the plan, which will hopefully be most useful for those of you who weren't familiar with it. And then I'll hand over to Anna and Peter, sorry, to give you some specific examples of work that members of the partnership are delivering. So what I'm going to cover today is some background of London as an urban forest, an overview of the London Urban Forest Partnership and the plan, some projects that we're delivering through the Trees Call to Action Fund, spotlight some work by the partnership, and then take you through some areas of upcoming focus for the partnership. So some of you may be wondering whether London is really a forest, and the answer is yes. So London, according to one UN definition, is a forest, and that definition is that a forest is anywhere that's at least 20% trees. Mapping conducted in 2018 showed that London has 21% canopy cover. So that means more than a fifth of London is trees, and that London is one of, if not the largest, urban forest in the world. The Mayor of London set an ambition in his environment strategy to increase this by 10% by 2050. In real terms, this is around 2.1%, which may sound a small amount, but it's a large area in terms of London's land cover. So that would be over 3,000 hectares. London's urban forest contains an estimated 8.4 million trees, and between 49 to 51% of London is green cover. London's urban forest includes linear transport routes and waterways like canals and rivers, parks, nature reserves, and informal green spaces, lots of street trees, domestic gardens, and urban green spaces such as housing estates, schools, and hospital grounds, and of course, not forgetting woodlands. So London's urban forest provides many benefits, including some of those shown on this slide, which is taken from the London Urban Forest Plan. So for example, in 2018, the value of cooling provided by London's urban forest was £200 million. So as you can see, there's lots to look after, lots of ambition to plant more trees, and lots of reason to do so. So that's where the London Urban Forest Partnership and the London Urban Forest Plan come in. So the London Urban Forest Partnership is a network of 28 organisations that you can see on your screen here. And they collaborate to help protect London's trees and woodlands and encourage individual Londoners, businesses and organisations to manage the urban forest better and to plant more trees. The partnership shares information and data, informs the development of tree-related programmes in London, and promotes the benefits of the city's urban forest. So the structure of the London Urban Forest Partnership enables a focus on the goals and actions generated in the London Urban Forest Plan, which was published in 2020. So as you can see from this diagram, the partnership has two layers. There's the delivery group, who are 10 organisations that lead on actions in the London Urban Forest Plan, and then we have the partnerships network. The network's primary function is to enable collaboration, sharing of information and data, and to raise and discuss issues and opportunities within London's urban forest. And the network provides guidance and strategic direction to that delivery group. The GLA and the Forestry Commission provide overall coordination of the partnership. So the plan itself is structured under 3 themes, which I'll go into more detail in the next slides. But these are protecting and managing, growing and expanding, and promoting and supporting. And then beneath these 3 themes, there are 12 goals and 36 actions, all of which have a lead organisation from the partnership, and more often than not, several supporting organisations. So to take you through each of the themes and the goals that are in the London Urban Forest Plan, under protecting and managing, we've got 4 goals. So goal 1 is to manage London's urban forest according to a set of principles, ensuring improved resilience against pest diseases and climate change. Goal 2 is all about managing London's woodlands to maximise their benefits for people and wildlife. Goal 3 is to support London boroughs to produce local urban forest plans as a key part of comprehensive green infrastructure strategies. And goal 4 is about protecting against loss and damage, and particularly irreplaceable assets, including veteran trees and ancient woodlands. Under the theme of growing and expanding, we've got a further 4 goals. So goal 5 is about creating more woodland, especially species-rich woodland in London, particularly in the green belt. And Anna will tell you a bit more about that in her presentation. Goal 6 is about increasing the number of trees on London streets, particularly in areas of low canopy cover. And similarly, goal 7 is about increasing the number of trees in parks and green spaces in areas of low canopy cover. And goal 8 is ensuring that high quality, up-to-date information on the extent, condition and benefits of London's urban forest is accessible to land managers, decision makers and the public. Lastly, promoting and supporting has goals focusing on supporting Londoners and playing an active role in the protection, growth and management of the urban forest. Goal 10 is about recognising the productive potential of London's urban forest and supporting wood enterprises. Goal 11 is about championing, sharing and encouraging good practice, innovation and research among urban forest professionals. And Goal 12 was about developing a new partnership structure to deliver the actions in the plan, which was that partnership structure that I just talked you through. However, since the plan was published in 2020, there was a lack of capacity to drive the London Urban Forest Plan actions forward. So we were delighted in 2020 to be successful in receiving funding from the Trees Call to Action Fund. This fund was developed by DEFRA in partnership with the Forestry Commission and is being delivered by the National Lottery Heritage Fund. So this funding will speed up the delivery of priority actions in the London Urban Forest Plan, and it will do this by increasing the capacity of 8 partners to deliver 9 sub-projects. This extra support allows us to deliver faster and achieve more and enable more regional collaboration. So I won't go into the detail of all of these projects, and you'll hear about 2 of them in Anna and Peter's presentation. But the projects deliver on both the England Tree Action Plan objectives and the goals of the London Urban Forest Plan. As you can see at the top, this TCAF funding has also allowed my role to be created so that we have dedicated resource to coordinate the partnership and also help partners deliver the actions in their plan. So if you want to find out more about these projects, then there's a page on the GLA website of the same name if you typed in delivering the London Urban Forest Plan. So I wanted to spotlight some of the other work that's being done by the London Urban Forest Partners. With 28 partners, there's a lot going on and more than I can cover in this presentation. So I've just picked out a few that might be of interest. So London Wood Enterprise is an initiative of individuals, organisations and businesses from across the wood supply chain working together. And this underpins the delivery of Goal 10 in the plan. The Trees and Design Action Group have lots of practical and technical guides to inform decision-making on urban trees. And this cuts across lots of goals, particularly those under the theme of growing and expanding. The piece of work on tree species selection for green infrastructure is a really excellent resource if anyone's wondering what trees they should plant. The Tree Council published a tree and woodland strategy toolkit, which is a step-by-step guide for local authorities and their stakeholders to develop and deliver a local tree strategy. And this contributes to Goal 3 of the plan. Trees for Streets is a national street tree sponsorship scheme from the national charity Trees for Cities. 8 London boroughs are part of this scheme, and other charities and local authorities also support tree sponsorship. So if you're interested in getting more trees outside your house, then see what's on offer for your local area. And this work aligns with Goal 6B of the plan. The London Tree Officers Association recently updated their CABAT tool, which stands for Capital Asset Value for Amenity Trees, which is an approach to valuing amenity trees. So if you're looking for ways to help justify why the trees near you are really important, then that tool might be of interest, and that contributes to Goal 8. I also wanted to draw people's attention to the many different green infrastructure maps and tools hosted on the GLA website. Much of this work is done in conjunction with GIGL, London's Biological Record Centre. So what you can see an image of here is the London street tree map, but we also have a canopy cover map, a green cover map, a green infrastructure focus map, a climate risk map, a 10-minute walk map. So there's lots out there to support decision making and prioritisation. And last but not least, this Urban Tree Festival is contributing towards Goal 9B of the plan, which is to develop an annual collaborative campaign for involving Londoners with London Urban Forest. So thank you all very much for engaging with the events this week. You are all contributing to delivering the London Urban Forest Plan.
Brilliant. So, sorry, you've got some more slides, Lucy, is that right?
Just the final one, Neil.
Apologies.
That's okay. So lastly, I just thought I'd leave you all with some upcoming areas of focus for the partnership. So we're developing a resource hub for the London Urban Forest Partnership to make it easier to find the latest information and demonstrate the range of activity taking place across the partnership. So this hub won't create new resources, but will signpost to existing ones. Drought and heat draws attention to the importance of urban trees, but also makes it harder for new trees to survive. So as a collective, we need to better understand survival rates of trees and good practice for planting and maintaining trees. We need to continue to build an evidence base to inform work with training providers, employers, to lever support for arboricultural skills and meet the needs of London's current shortages. We need to actively reach out to residents groups, minority-led community groups and neighbourhood forums in areas of deprivation to encourage and support involvement of underrepresented groups in planting, management and maintenance of trees. And lastly, since the plan was published in 2020, the Environment Act has brought in a new legislative landscape. So as a partnership, we need to understand how BNG can play a delivery role and how the Urban Forest Plan can dovetail with the future local nature recovery strategies. And that was my last slide. So thank you all for listening. And back to you, Neil.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much, Lucy. That's a fantastic job in introducing the sort of broad scope of the plan. I'm sure there are going to be lots of questions, although none have quite yet appeared on the Q&A panel. So I urge you to use that. We do, however, have one question. I should have said we're streaming live on Facebook. So we have a couple of questions, I think, from the Facebook Live audience, which we'll get to in due course. But without further ado, I'm going to now pass over the baton to Anna from CPRE London.
So I'm the director of CPRE London, and I'm going to tell you today about some of the work we're doing on greenbelt woodland creation. So let me just share my screen. Is that showing?
Yes, it is. But if you can go to the slideshow, I think then we can just see the one slide at a time. Top menu in the middle, more or less.
The menu is showing up differently than it did in the practice. I'm sorry.
So just step down on the horizontal menu where it says slideshow after animations and before record.
Yeah.
Got it?
Got it. Here we go.
Cool. Fantastic. That's good.
So, as we saw in Lucy's presentation, Goal 5 of the London Urban Forest Plan specifically identifies the need to create more woodland, and especially species-rich woodland, and especially in the greenbelt. So, the vision we're trying to work towards is the tree ring, a continuous ring of woodland winding through London's greenbelt. A sort of M25 for nature. So, as you can see from this map, there are some gaps in the existing greenbelt within Greater London, and this project will try and help to plug some of those gaps with woodland. And in places, traditional native woodland may not be possible, but there may be scope for a new urban orchard, increased use of hedgerows, tree-planted field margins, even intensified urban greening in some areas, so that the ring of trees remains unbroken and more species are able to move between wooded areas more easily. So why are we doing this? Carbon capture is obviously an important part. Increasing London's tree cover by 10% would help capture an estimated 1.5 million tonnes of carbon. It'll also reduce the urban heat island effect and improve air quality. Strengthening biodiversity is also key. We're looking to increase connectivity between areas of woodland. That increases supports this movement of species, which allows greater gene flow amongst between otherwise isolated populations, which can then lead to interbreeding and vulnerability to disease. It also helps enhance the range of species present, and finally also increases the resilience of wildlife populations to environmental changes. The third area is health and well-being. The green belt is the countryside on the doorstep of Londoners. Getting out into high quality green areas, countryside-like areas, has been shown to have valuable physical and mental health benefits. We're also sort of actively promoting community involvement in woodland creation and care. And that also has direct physical and mental health benefits for the volunteers who get involved. We have a network of more than 500 green space groups, Friends of Green Space groups that we have direct contact with across the capital. And we're keen to help mobilise them to help make this happen. So this local involvement using our networks is key. I've been excited recently to be working on identifying priority sites for planting. So sort of teaming up with local campaigners to identify sites in their locality and then try and go and visit those sites on the ground, thinking through things like who actually owns the land, how is the site currently being used, what's currently planted on the land, and how could woodland or more spaced out tree planting or peripheral planting complement the site. And sort of considering whether the site has a Friends of Green Space group who could help provide momentum for planting, and then later on play an active role in the planting itself and maintaining the new plants, the new trees. Also considering any barriers to planting, for example, protecting other precious habitats such as chalk grasslands or wetlands. And so making sure that whatever we're doing are not eroding those, as well as considering whether the area is being used for local food growing, which obviously also has benefits in terms of reducing carbon footprint. So if you're interested in getting involved in gathering this kind of information in your area, please do get in touch with me on anna@cprelondon.org.uk, and that email address is going to be on one of the next slides. So the next stage will be running this initial analysis by biodiversity officers where they exist, or other staff with ecology skills and knowledge of the local area, so they can assess the accuracy of this initial analysis, volunteer-led analysis, and then provide supplementary information. And we plan to use this combined sort of ground truth picture to persuade landowners of the value of playing their part in climate change mitigation and adaptation in London, and talk to funders about supporting work in these priority sites. Where neglected green sites don't have existing friends groups, will be to help drive forward the planting at a specific site. We'll endeavour to get new groups established. We also plan to link individual groups or coordinated friends groups working together up to relevant funding opportunities. We'll also collaborate with our allies, other environmental NGOs, other key bodies like the GLA, to seize opportunities for tree planting in the Greenbelt at scale. So in support of this, we'll also feed into consultations on borough local plans, which are the documents that guide land use planning, and we'll push hard for these to include plans on expanding woodland cover at priority sites that have been identified. And just to kind of give you some examples to sort of bring this to life, we've been starting to work with campaigners interested in recreating sways of the historic Royal Forest of Waltham, which is looking at sort of reconnecting Epping Forest with Hainault Forest. and reaching out to relevant landowners such as the church commissioners, who we hope to meet with soon. We're also working with campaigners in Enfield who've identified more than 20 sites that they think have scope for new woodland, and they're meeting regularly and helping grow the evidence base. So we'll be sharing the information we're gathering on specific sites suitable for woodland creation with other members of the London Urban Forest Plan to facilitate rapid action at these sites. So finally, urgent action needed on getting the planting in place. The Mayor's set a very ambitious target to make London carbon neutral by 2030. Part of that plan is to plant 2 million new trees for London by 2025, now just 2 years away. And according to the data available, only about 500,000 trees have gone in since 2016. So there needs to be a major stepping up of action in the next 2 planting seasons to get in the right ballpark of the action that's needed. And Greenbelt offers the best opportunity for planting at scale, and at the same time, tree planting on this land is the surest way to keep it green long term. Thanks very much. I'll pass you back to Neil.
Thanks, Anna. That's fantastic. Again, without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Peter from the Conservation Volunteers. Peter, the floor's yours.
Do you want to stop sharing, Anna? Because we've still got your thank you. So people can see me now. You might be relieved to know I don't have a slideshow presentation, which means you just have to look at me, but don't let that put you off. My name's Peter Underwood. I work for a charity called the Conservation Volunteers. I'm the Business Development Manager for London and the South of England, so that's a bit who I am. The Conservation Volunteers, if you don't know, we used to be called BTCV about 10 years ago. Some people remember that. It's a charity that was set up at the end of the 1950s to basically help connect people to nature and restore natural environments and restore that link between people and nature, because for the health of both. Because the longer it's gone on, the more studies we've seen about improving people's health and well-being from spending time in green spaces and literally getting their hands dirty and being involved in nature projects, which is what the TCV is all about. So yes, we're obviously very keen to be involved as part of the London Urban Forest Plan. The particular project that we're working on, it's a joint project with London Wildlife Trust and Trees for Cities. The member of staff employed happens to sit with TCV, which is why I'm here. But with the focus, understandably, in London being on increasing tree cover, we felt there needed to be some element of the project looking at improving the woodland we've already got and making sure that that's looked after better and improving the condition of existing woodlands across London. As we all know, we have some fantastic, beautiful, wonderful woodlands across London. We also have some that don't look so great and aren't as well looked after. And so trying to work through looking at those. The way we're doing it, London Wildlife Trust, we've been working with them to refine and develop a woodland condition assessment tool, which is a simple, it's about 4 or 5 pages long, that can be used by volunteer groups to go through and assess the health of their woodlands. And it looks at things like canopy cover and shrubland and ground cover, but also things like, are there, problem species turning up? Is it accessible? Is there signage? All sorts of different factors to look at in terms of how accessible and how healthy this woodland is. And the idea of the tool is the fact that it helps equip local volunteer groups when they're working to try and improve their woodland, to give them some sort of starting point to work from and some guides in terms of where their woodland area might need improvement, what they should focus their efforts on, how to bring things up. We're trying to get that assessment tool done by as many volunteer groups across London as possible. A colleague of mine, Alistair McKinley, is leading on that work. I will put his email address in the chat when I finish talking. So if you're part of a volunteer group that looks after woodland in London, you can get in touch with Alistair. He can arrange to come out and talk you through the condition assessment tool. You can have a go. And yeah, we're trying to get as many done as possible, so it provides also an overall picture of the condition of London woodlands, which is, I know, something London Wildlife Trust have been keen on for a while, to actually get that sort of assessment of how well is it being looked after, how much work is required to go into actually improving the way our woodlands work. So yeah, Alistair's started going out already and meeting with volunteer groups, going through, say, this assessment tool, and it's been an interesting project in the fact that obviously members of volunteer groups have a wide range of previous knowledge and skills, but I think everybody has found the tool really interesting, and just it's a focused way of looking at the woodland that people care about or want to look after. Alistair will also be doing some training work with Trees for Cities, have a scheme called Generation Tree, where they have trainees that are learning more about managing woodlands and the environment. And so Alistair will be working with them, looking at this condition assessment tool. The next stage, sort of moving later into the project, is what we're going to put together is a very simple woodland management toolkit in terms of guidance on how volunteers can help out looking after their local woodland, what they can do, and signposting them to more details. So it's not going to be a Bible of everything you need to know, but it is just a starting point to help people at least, find their way around in terms of, managing the health of their local woodlands and improving, so that the condition assessment, the idea is, say, if you did it this month, you could go back in May next year and do the condition assessment tool again and see if your scores had gone up in which areas, so you can measure, and volunteers measure their own progress in terms of improving the health of their woodlands. Or if things are going in the wrong direction, we've got clear data showing where there's a problem, and similarly that could be escalated maybe to London level, and we can look at how those issues are dealt with. So yeah, that's an overall presentation on, yes, our woodland condition assessment tool. As I said, if you're a volunteer as part of a volunteer group, I'll put Alistair's email address in the chat group. Please send him an email, let him know what woodland you work on, you're involved with, or you care about locally. And yeah, we're trying to get as many people involved as possible in looking after their local woodlands.
Brilliant. Thanks, Peter. Really, really useful stuff. And thanks to all the presenters, Lucy and Anna, as well, for a really good kind of overview of where we are and where we're going with the urban forest plan. We've got a few questions in the Q&A panel, and a couple of questions have been asked in the chat, which I hope everyone can now access. Sorry for the initial issues there. And again, many apologies for the slight delay in allowing you to join us earlier, but we have a good attendance, and I'm hoping that nobody was put off by that. I'm just going to read out the two of the questions in the chat and see which of the speakers might want to respond. There's a general one here from somebody in the Facebook audience saying, great idea, all new trees ? And I think she's referring, or he was referring, to the felling of trees, mature trees on Eastern Corner recently, connected with the HS2 sort of redevelopment of that area, and asking, is, I think, the plan more about planting new trees where it is where they're less likely to be impacted on by development, or what does it have to say about existing trees? And I suppose one way of summarising that is, does the plan give greater protection, any greater protection than currently exists for mature trees, which play a huge part in contributing to the sort of character and environmental quality of areas? And I'm sure that's a question that many people would want to sort of hear the answer to, really. And then the second one, if that's not enough, to start with, is a question from Jenny Wardle in the chat. Well, not really a question, but a comment, really, saying that Queenstown Road in Wandsworth is very barren and has loads of road traffic and general unhealthiness. And I suppose the question arising from that is, what can the plan do to support tree planting in these kinds of areas? Lucy, is it unfair to ask you to kick off?
No, that's fine. So is it just about planting new trees? No, it's very much about maintaining what is there. So I think I said that the first theme is about protecting and managing, and particularly goal 4 is about protecting against loss and damage. So absolutely, the plan's not just about planting new trees. The London Urban Forest Plan itself doesn't offer like the powers to enact that, but the Mayor's London Plan does. So policy G7 about trees and woodlands is very much focused on retaining existing trees wherever possible, and that kind of development should have due regard to that London Plan policy. I'd also say that the London Plan brought in an urban greening factor, and there's supplementary guidance about that. So that's also really focused on making sure that development improves what's there rather than leave things worse off. But yeah, it's a tricky issue. Sometimes there is good reason for trees to be removed. In terms of the question about, or the comment about an area being very barren, I'd say get in touch with your local tree officer if you've got suggestions of where you'd like to see planted. There's different kind of funding streams that are available to get new street tree planting, and that's really the focus of goal 7 is about street tree planting. Might be six. So yes, get in touch with your local tree officer and see if you can get the area planted up.
Great, thanks, Lucy. Peter or Anna, do you want to come in on any of that?
Yeah, I can. So just to say, if you know of green spaces with trees that are under threat from development, do get in touch with us at CPRE London. That's the sort of real meat and veg, you know, the centre of our work is defending existing green spaces and plants in the ground. And then on the Queenstown Road, Wandsworth, just to let you know, we have funding in place for hedgerow planting at the moment. So if you think there's scope for hedgerows to sort of screen off the road or green it, do get in touch with us about that. Yeah, and then there are obviously lots of other charities that are actively involved in tree planting at the moment who can be contacted.
Thanks, Anna. Can I just take the opportunity before letting you in, Peter, to flag up that as part of the Urban Tree Festival, there is a 2-day event in Wandsworth Park on Saturday and Sunday that you might want to get involved with if you're in that part of London over the weekend, with some multicultural folk dancing and various other activities going on. Peter, do you have a response?
I was just going to say, I've always said to people, one of the greatest ways of protecting green space is to have lots of people who love it. And so that for me is following lockdown, when a lot more people discovered the green spaces on their doorstep that they hadn't realised were there before. It's why the project that we're involved in terms of helping volunteers learn about looking after the woodland is we know there's a lot more people who discovered areas that they now care about and want to do something about it. And so, yeah, I would say generally in terms of preserving woodlands, green space and things like that is encouraging people to get involved. TCV runs lots of projects, but so do London Wildlife Trust and Trees for Cities, and there's lots of charities and organisations running and little local voluntary groups. And it's just, encouraging as many people as possible to get involved in those groups, to learn a bit more about the nature that surrounds them, but also, develop that love of their local green space. And that's, decisions get made often by politicians, and politicians care that thousands of people really want to look after a place. So the more people you can get involved in loving nature, the more protection it has.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would add that, even if, you're campaigning to protect a particular tree or group of trees and you don't succeed in that goal, simply being there and campaigning can actually help reinforce the case for other groups that want to protect, trees in their neighborhoods as well. And we had a showing of the Happy Man Tree campaign, a film that was made about that earlier in the Urban Tree Festival, which has lots of really interesting ideas about how you can effectively sort of group together to protect trees that you value in your neighbourhoods. We've got a couple of interesting questions on the Q&A panel that we'll get to. So Colette's asking that about whether or not there is any future plans to organise interfaith tree planting events which bring together different religious groups for a collective endeavour. She says this is still happening or plans to continue, and I'm conscious of a number of recent examples of where that's happened, not least in the case of Enfield, which Anna talked about, where there's been some significant tree planting and landscape restoration taking place over recent years. But do any of you have any thoughts on that question about how to engage interfaith groups in tree planting? Or any examples that you would like to share? It's certainly something that I think we should take away and consider in terms of the engagement strategy that underpins the urban forest plan. So thanks, Colette, for that question, and keep in touch with us, and possibly primarily CPRE London and conservation volunteers will be groups who would be helping to organise such events. And I note in the chat, Phil Parlow has just said the Tree Council has grant programmes launching next month to support community tree planting projects. So keep an eye on the Tree Council website for details of that, which would be a great assistance. Anna, did you want to come in? And Peter, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that various friends groups are doing things like, one of the friends groups is reaching out to a local women's, a Muslim women's group to kind of try and get them involved. So I think that's another thing we're very keen to support, is helping the Friends movement diversify their membership. Yeah,
very good point. And it's something that we've tried to do at the Urban Tree Festival year on year, is to build a greater diversity into the kind of events that we're organising and the participants that we're seeking to engage. So that's been working quite well, I think.
And just to say on that, one of our Urban Tree Festival events with a group of refugees, we were talking to them about sort of local involvement in maintaining green spaces, and a young guy who was from Sudan, living in sort of cramped accommodation in Crystal Palace, said, yeah, he would love to get involved, and he's sort of signing up with the London Wildlife Trust now, having been taken round. So yeah, get physical and get outside, which he said he would find helpful personally as well.
Great. Peter, did you want to come in?
I was just going to say, similarly, TCV operates, they have their ID Trees programme where we plant about 1 million trees every year across the country, where voluntary groups can apply for packs of trees to planting. I see Susanna in the chat, Susanna Littlewood from Trees for Cities, that Trees for Cities obviously do similar programmes encouraging people to plant trees. And so, yeah, if there are groups of people who want to get involved in tree planting, there are a number of routes and organisations to apply to, and yeah, you'll find the best one that suits you and being able to support you. So
great, thanks, Peter. And Kate from Trees for Cities has also put a link into an interfaith planting project that they were involved in as part of the Queen's Green Canopy initiative. So there's a link there in the chat if you want to follow that up. And a couple more questions that are sort of overlap to some extent in the Q&A panel. So we have Susanna Littlewood again from Trees for Cities asking about whether or not there's been any discussion on what the aim is in terms of the 2 million trees target, how they translate into in terms of canopy cover, and on what timescales. And I suppose, Susanna, you're asking about whether or not there's any sense of the 2025 timescale being revised at all, given that that's been in place for some time. And Wendy in the Q&A is also asking a question around that. Is it achievable? And then is there a plan in place to do this? I suppose what you mean, Wendy, is there a kind of a delivery plan or an implementation plan that sits under the strategic objectives set out in the London Urban Forest Plan, which I think Lucy touched on, but maybe you want to say a bit more about that, Lucy, about the target and how that translates.
Yeah, sure. So I might be wrong in saying this, but I think the mayor did make that claim, but it's not an official manifesto commitment. So it's not kind of our primary focus within kind of the environment team at the GLA to work towards that target. So what we're really focusing on is canopy cover, which kind of Susanna references in her question, how does that relate? So kind of recognizing that individual tree numbers are a useful metric, but canopy cover kind of more relates to the benefits that you receive from those trees, and also recognizing that you can plant a tree, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will kind of survive and take to maturity. So our target that we're working towards is 10% increase in canopy cover by 2050. And in the London Urban Forest Plan and also in the London Environment Strategy, we say that that will be monitored every 5 years. So the mapping that says we're at 21% canopy cover was done in 2018. So you can expect an update on where we're at with progress against that canopy cover target later this year. So that's really our focus at the moment, is on that canopy cover.
Can I just ask for clarification on that, Lucy? So the 10%, does that apply to a 10% of what's already there, or?
Yeah, a 10% increase,
yeah.
Which I think I said in my presentation was around like 3,000 hectare increase. So if you think about how constrained London is for space, it is quite a substantial target in itself.
Thank you for that clarification. Anna, Peter, any thoughts? No. You need to unmute yourself, I think.
Lucy, do you have a sense of how far off or otherwise we are on canopy cover progress?
I don't have the figures that's come back from the mapping, so that will be later this year, but I think we appreciate it might only be an incremental increase because the amount of trees that have been planted, it will take time to realise that in terms of canopy cover. But yeah, there'll be more info on that later in the year.
Thank you. And Jenny Wardle in the chat is just saying that she's about to move, but she's got some potted trees that she's grown from seed from Battersea Park. So if anyone would like to have them, get in touch with Jenny. Maybe Jenny, you can put your contact details in the chat as well, so people can follow up on that if they like. So we've got a few minutes left of the hour that we allocated. And apologies again that we started a bit later. So if there's an interest, we can carry on perhaps a little bit after 2, but otherwise I'll draw the discussion to a close in a few moments. We don't have any questions that we haven't yet addressed in the Q&A panel, so please, if you have any final questions, we do have a bit of time to sort of deal with them. Anna, you've
I was just going to say to Jenny, if you do have sort of extra seedlings and things, you can promote them on our Go Parks website, which is a website we use to support the friends groups across the capital. And I dare say somebody on there would be interested. So yeah, look it up, the Go Parks website, Go Parks London.
Fantastic. Okay, if there are no questions from the audience forthcoming, I suppose I can just ask one to help sort of wrap up proceedings, and that's really to ask each of you to perhaps just give a response to a general question that many people might be thinking about. It was, how can I get involved most effectively in helping to deliver the objectives in the London Urban Forest Plan? What next steps might I take as an interested member of the public to help support the delivery of tree planting? So can we take it in the order of presenters that we had at the start? So Lucy first, then Anna, then Peter, and then we'll close the session at 2 o'clock.
Sure.
Lucy?
So it's not something that we're kind of actively doing within the GLA. So I would just signpost you back out to all the great partners in the partnership. So thinking about some of the projects that we've got going on through the Trees Call to Action Fund. I know Trees for Cities, their Generation Tree project, will be doing lots of engagement events over the summer. So look out for those. Lots of opportunities to get involved with Street Trees for Living. TCV do lots. So just encourage you to get directly in touch with those other partners. And I mentioned that one of the things we're working on in the partnership is this resource hub. So hopefully that will make it easier for those interested in the future to know where to go to find those opportunities.
Could you, Lucy, could you paste a link in the chat to that hub, or when
It's in development, so
in development,
it won't
okay.
be available until later in the year. We're just working on that at the moment.
Fine, thank you. Anna.
Hi, so I would encourage anybody who knows a good site where hedgerows could really enhance the local environment, help screen traffic, ugly development, air pollution, noise, do get in touch by emailing me. Similarly, if you know of sites in London's green belt within the London boroughs, in the outer boroughs, do get in touch and we'll try and investigate that further. And finally, wherever you live, do look up the Go Parks London website, which will link you up to local friends of the park groups. And they're always looking for more volunteers and helping create this momentum behind looking for areas in parks, not woodlanding over whole parks necessarily. That's not usually appropriate, but areas in parks where we could increase woodland cover. That would be great to have your involvement.
Thank you. Peter.
Similar, reflecting some of the points. I've just put a link in the chat to the TCV main website. You can go in there and you can put your postcode and it will tell you about projects that are happening nearby that we're running. We're running about 40 odd projects, I think, across the whole of London at the moment. We don't cover everywhere. That's part of my job, to try and cover more areas, to get more projects running, supporting more volunteers. We also have, TCV have what we call our community network, which is where a lot of friends groups have linked into TCV. So similarly, we can advise you about sort of friends groups. If you contact your nearest TCV office, they may be able to let you know about nearby friends groups that you can get involved with on a voluntary basis to help out there. But yeah, as people have probably picked up from this presentation, there are a number of charities: London Wildlife Trust, Trees for Cities, TCV. I know the Downlands Trust across the south of London. There's a lot of different charities doing sort of similar field, all the ones, but get in touch and yeah, try and help out, or even contact your local. Most local councils will have details of voluntary groups that they work with in their area, so contacting your local tree officer or your local park and green spaces department, and they may be able to direct you to groups that they know that are running in their area.
Thank you, Peter. Lucy, you put your hand up, is that?
Yes, it was just a quick one to think of that through the Mayor's Trees for London programme in the past planting season, there were lots of tree packs to give away through TCV. So if you go through the GLA website or the TCV, you can express interest in getting a tree pack. So free trees if you want to plant those.
Thank you. And finally, from me, just to say that I've posted the link to the rest of the Urban Tree Festival programme in the chat. There are some fantastic events coming up over the weekend. I mentioned the Wandsworth Park May Tree Festival, but there's also a lot of activities going on at Camley Street Natural Park, which is run by the London Wildlife Trust. In partnership with them, we've put on a programme, family-friendly programme of activities, crafts, arts, singing workshops during the day on Saturday. So please come along to that if you're around and you have young children that want to get involved. That would be a fun day. So that all that remains for me to do now is to thank once again our fantastic presenters, Lucy, Peter and Anna, to thank all of you for coming along.